What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Xbox Drive, episode 283, all about things and stuff. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Turford, the man on the move. I'm kind of like blending the RPG Cave intro and this intro together, Matt, where I'm like wanting to call myself the level 99 human archmage, and I'm like, that's the wrong show. I don't even know what I'm doing here anymore.
Ryan, you can be the level 99 archmage no matter where you are, what show you're on. I support you in that endeavor.
That's true. I mean, being an archmage, being a magician, Matt, is it more of a state of mind rather than, the ability to be able to use stat sheets and whatnot. By the way, of course, joining me this week, the Blue Box himself, Matt Sowinski, is here. How's it going, Matt?
What's up? Stoked to be here. Stoked to bring my blue boxness over to the green box. We're gonna have a fun little roller coaster of a time. Ryan, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, this is part of my idea to try and bring kind of new people, even though Matt's not new to carpool gaming. But Matt's never been on the Xbox Drive before. Like, we've never done this show together. We've done the PlayStation Drive together for a while, like a bunch of episodes, but we've never done this show together. So I thought it'd be fun to have like a PlayStation Drive reunion, but also talk about Xbox. And we even have Xbox or PlayStation adjacent stuff to talk about today, which is exciting as well. But of course, this is the Xbox Drive. We talk about Xbox all the time. So folks at home, if you want to support the show, there's a number of awesome ways to do that. Number one, if you're watching the live stream right now over at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, or if you're watching the video on demand later, don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and ding, 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 ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we go live or when we put up a new video like Carpool Gaming Weekly, which of course is once again popping off. So make sure to go check out all the news over there at Carpool Gaming Weekly. You can also support us on your audio feed of choice by, of course, subscribing there if you haven't subscribed already, as well as rating us if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And then last but not least, if you want this show or any of our other shows audio first, you can head on over to patreon.com/carpoolgaming, as well as some exclusive content. Throw a little tip in the tip jar, and out comes content. Well, without further ado, Matt, it is time to grab our 8-tracks. Papa Band, it is time for the playlist, and we got to talk about the games we've been playing this week. So, Matt, start us off. What did you play this week, my friend?
Yeah, sadly not on Xbox, but I'm still knee-deep in Trails to Azure. Can't stop playing it. Of course, we talked about it at length on the RPG Cave, so go check that out there if you're interested. It's a fantastic RPG, one of my absolute favorites. But the thing that I am excited about, Ryan, is thanks to our friends over at PlayStation Canada, I'm currently in the midst of downloading MLB The Show on Xbox. Ooh. So yeah, strap in. I'm my first MLB. Of course, Court is a massive, long-time fan. Played so much of it last year, he quite literally injured himself. So I'm excited to kind of dive into the world of MLB and kind of see what's good in the world of baseball. But that's kind of been my major area right now. And of course, we'll have more thoughts on MLB The Show 23 very, very soon, Ryan. But what have you been playing? Because I feel like you have a pretty cool list of stuff this week, my friend.
I'm not going to lie, Matt. I played a whole bunch of stuff. Because, of course, I also played Trails of Azure. But again, we're not going to talk about that there. It's not even on Xbox. But, it is on the show. But I did play two pretty big, major new releases. Number one, that I got to talk about at least a little bit, but I'm not going to, talk too much because we do have an in-depth conversation coming next week for it. Diablo 4's beta was last weekend, and it's also this weekend. The open beta is actually happening this weekend. But Matt, went down the rabbit hole. I played 20 hours of the Diablo 4 beta last weekend. It was live for 2 days.
Okay.
And
did you get the cute puppy backpack thing that I keep seeing all over the internet?
That was easy. You just had to get to level 20 as one of your characters, which takes about 5 or 10 hours to get to. But no, I rolled through the three character classes you had available in the first beta, which was the sorcerer, the barbarian, and the rogue. And then we have two other classes coming, the necromancer and the druid, in this beta that's happening this weekend, which I'm excited to try out those two new classes this weekend as well. But I couldn't put it down, Matt. It was so awesome. Like even though I tend not to like to play betas that long because I know usually the progress doesn't carry over. And in this case, it doesn't, obviously, besides, of course, the one collectible that you can unlock. I just couldn't put this game down. Like, I was having so much fun with it. Like, I just had a blast because the gameplay loop is just so addictive, combined with the fact that they added some interesting elements to this game. For example, because during the beta itself, you have to play online with other players. It almost feels like an MMO in a lot of ways. Like, it feels closer to something like Lost Ark in a way, where you'll go into the towns, or you're in like kind of the overworld area before going into dungeons and stuff, and you're just seeing players everywhere doing stuff, and you can interact with people. You can just do kind of like pickup parties with people if you want to, or you can play, or again, when you go into dungeons or do the story stuff, you're just on your own at that point, or you can invite people, or you can play couch co-op, which was also interesting in the beta as well, that they had that feature there
really
in the beta, which is interesting. So I just, again, I'll talk about it more next week, because I think we want to have a big in-depth discussion with a couple awesome guests. I don't want to reveal who they are yet, because I just want to make sure everything's confirmed before we announce who that is. But I think there's going to be some awesome people to talk about next week. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, Matt from the press pool. Quick question. Did you play all of the classes, and was there an early standout for you so far out of the 3 that you got to mess with last week?
So of the 3 I got to... So first off, those are the only 3 that are available now. There's going to be 5 in the total game, and we're going to have all 5 after this weekend. Right. I'll get a chance to try Necromancer and Druid this weekend. So I did try all 3 of them. I'm leaning more towards the Sorcerer as the most fun.
Okay.
So they're interesting, because the Sorcerer is basically just a bunch of elemental spells, fire, lightning, and frost, and you kind of choose kind of which path you want to go on, or you can kind of not focus on anything in particular, but it makes sense to actually focus on one of the 3, which is another interesting change this time around, because it goes back similarly to the style of talent tree system that you had in Diablo 2, or like it's a modified version of that. Like, it's not exactly the same, but it's very similar to how talents work in that game. So there's actually upside for choosing a specific, side of things. The rogue was a fun mix of bows and arrows and melee skills and traps. And I thought that was like probably the most unique class of the 3 of them, because it doesn't really feel a lot like any of the classes we've had before. And then the barbarian was just the barbarian. You just smash things. That's just how the barbarian plays. So of the 3, like, I think the rogue is definitely the most interesting one that I played, but I think for my playstyle, the sorcerer is probably the one that I'm leaning towards. But I'm excited to play Druid and Necromancer, because those are the 2 that I'm like, going into this, I think are like the 2 that appeal to me the most.
Okay.
Both from a class fantasy perspective and just, the gameplay styles of them, because the Druid is kind of a spellcaster, but also like a melee attacker, similar to the Rogue's blend of things, where you can transform into a werewolf, but then you can also use like elemental spells. And then the Necromancer is another, spellcasting class, but you've got, your undead army to help you out. You summon a bunch of skeletons and stuff. So both of those sound really cool.
Are you saying, Ryan, that as the level 99 Archmage, you have some sort of affinity towards spellcasting characters? I am shocked and appalled.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. But I mean, I wasn't always like that, though, because like in the older Diablo games, believe it or not, I was always the bow character, whether it was the rogue from Diablo 1 or the Amazon in Diablo 2. Like, those were the classes I gravitated towards. And it wasn't until Diablo 3 that I was really mostly focusing on the spellcasting classes, with the wizard or the witch doctor and things like that in Diablo 3. So, before we move off the Diablo topic, I'm going to bring in Josh, who asked a Diablo question as well. Josh asks, will you be playing a Diablo class that is new to you for Diablo 4, or will you stick with a class that you used to play in past Diablo games? So to answer your question, Josh, I'll know after this weekend, because that's one of the reasons I want to jump back in, despite another big game I'm about to talk about in a second that wants to, of course, also steal all my time. But at the same time, I don't really know. Like, I'm not 100%. I mean, I can tell you that I definitely probably am not going to stick with the sorcerer, though. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be Necromancer or Druid is probably what I'm going to go with. So, and that'll be different for me, because I usually don't play those classes. Like, I usually play the sorcerer or I play the rogue. Like, those are the 2 character classes I usually play in Diablo. So I will definitely be departing from it. But Matt, I have to, throw this question at you. First of all, are you actually interested in Diablo 4? Are you going to play it at all? And second, if you do play, what do you think you would play as then out of those 5 choices?
So for me, I actually really, really love Diablo 3. It was a game that when I was living in Korea at the time, me and my friends would get together and we'd couch co-op, all 4 of us back on the PS4. Trying to buy that game was a whirlwind because, of course, my credit cards and stuff wouldn't work properly out there. So I was like calling my mom, being like, "Can you go to Shoppers and get me a PlayStation Network card, please?"
Yeah.
So I really, really loved 3, and Senna and I ended up hopping into it as well after we really enjoyed playing Minecraft Dungeons. So 4 is definitely on my radar. I think from what you've described so far, the rogue is the one that I think sounds most fun to check out I'm always usually going after the rogue archetype characters. So I think I might check that out. So let me ask you this, Ryan. Is this weekend an open beta? Am I able to hop in this weekend without having pre-ordered the game or bought a double down?
Yep, it is open to everyone. You just have to install the client on whatever platform you want to play on, and go from there. Because the Diablo beta just opened at noon, and then it runs until Sunday night. So
okay, I'm gonna download it right now.
I will warn you, the servers will be packed today, so I would say the best time to check it out is tomorrow or Sunday. But yeah, so it's open now on every platform: Xbox, PC, PlayStation. In fact, that's the other nice thing about this weekend, because I only had access on PlayStation before. So I'm finally going to get the chance to try it on PC, which I'm actually really excited to play it on, and then also on Xbox. I want to play it there as well. So this is also a weekend where I'm going to pick out what platform I'm even going to play this game on at this point, and it might even be on PC, but we'll see.
Really?
Yeah. Because we'll talk. Because transitioning to the other game that I played, Matt, I played Resident Evil 4. It came out last night at midnight, and I talked about it a little bit on last week's show with Bad Bit about how we were talking about the demo. I tried the demo on all 3 platforms and ended up feeling like it ran and looked way better on my PC than either of the 2 consoles did.
Really?
And Digital Foundry talks about this because they put up a definitive review today, talking about some of the technical specs, but there's some weird like anti-aliasing stuff on the PlayStation version where things almost look like they're out of focus in some places. And likewise on Xbox, there's a problem with the controls as far as the way there's like a delay in the aiming, and there's not really like there's a whole bunch of weird stuff. So it actually makes it harder to play on Xbox. So I already knew, because I knew that wasn't getting patched out day one. So I was like, all right, I don't want to play on Xbox because of that, because it just sounds miserable to me. Because it was definitely miserable in the demo trying to play through it on Xbox. It was not as fun of an experience. And all in all, I decided to pick this game up on PC rather than playing it on consoles, which is a first for me, Matt, because it's been a very long time since I bought a game on PC, let alone a game that was also on consoles, but I decided to play it on PC instead. Because that's not the Ryan Turford MO at all. But because I don't actually have a TV in the other room now, so I'm playing all my games at my desk anyways now. My concern about playing games on my PC and having to sit at my desk to play games has been alleviated, because now I'm doing that for all games now anyways. So at this point, I was just like, well, I'm going to go with the game the version that runs the best and plays the best. So I picked it up on PC, which is definitely a first for me. But I love Resident Evil 4. I loved the original version. I'm probably, again, Carpool Gaming's biggest Resident Evil stan. I love all the Resident Evil games. And Resident Evil 4 Remake has been pretty awesome so far. I'm about 3.5 hours in. But again, like I said, it just went live at midnight last night, so I haven't had a ton of time to play. But it's just been really interesting, just building off the conversation with Bad Bit and I last week had about the game, just how many different changes they made to this game. Like, all the areas feel like the areas from Resident Evil 4, but they've totally changed the layout as far as a lot of the pathways that you go through them, or the enemies that spawn in every area. My only kind of gripe about that is it almost feels like there's way too many enemies this time, where some enemies, it almost feels like enemies are just respawning infinitely as I'm going through those areas, which it is not how I love Resident Evil, because I love Resident Evil 4, the survival horrorness of it, where you've got limited ammo and it doesn't feel like a shooter. And there are definitely times like in Resident Evil 4 where it definitely feels like it's going much farther in that direction than even the original game did. So that's, one of my gripes and complaints. But otherwise, besides that gripe there, everything else has been amazing. I finished the first boss in the lake. They even made like the lake area in this game like a much more substantial area in this game where you can actually go explore around the lake in a boat that you have. And there's a bunch of different islands you can go to and stuff like that. Like, it's really cool and interesting. So I love all the changes they made to this game besides the one I just talked about. And I'm just excited to play more of this game. And I will definitely have like a review later on about Resident Evil 4 where I go kind of full details about everything about the game. But I mean, so far so good. We've heard the hype from people who reviewed it, how, 10 out of 10s all over the place for this game. And I'm not in that camp yet, but I'm really, really enjoying it so far as a Resident Evil 4 fan. So
nice. I really want to check it out as well. Like Resident Evil 4 was the first Resident Evil that I checked out back on the GameCube way back when. And I remember really, really liking it. So for me, I think I have a bit of a backlog to get through right now, but once I'm done that, I think Resident Evil will probably be the next up on the list because it is looking pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing. And it's definitely going to, be a nice palate cleanser this weekend for Diablo 4's beta because, and the main reason why I'm kind of putting Diablo 4 ahead of Resident Evil 4 this weekend is because, of course, the Diablo 4 beta is only this weekend. And then, of course, we can't play it till June. So I want to make sure to get my time in with that first. And then, like, I'm actually pretty sure I could probably finish Resident Evil by the time we do the podcast next week. So maybe we will, I'll because at the rate I'm playing it, Matt, I mean, there's a good chance that I'll probably be able to finish it by then. So,
well, knowing if Kevin Ainsworth is playing it, he's probably already finished it because he has no job. So
there is that too. But last but not least, Matt, I'm giving this a shout out. It's not an Xbox game. It's not even a new game, but I'm giving it a special shout out. I put out this tweet actually a couple days ago, Matt, that people don't love the board game Monopoly as much because, it can go on forever or it can be very complicated. And of course, I rediscovered the love for Monopoly on NES, Matt, because, I decided to have a late night NES game playing session where I popped in a bunch of NES games into my NES, played a bunch of games there. And I, of course, was reminded about just how perfect of an interpretation Monopoly on NES is of the board game. It moves super quick. You can finish a game in 5 to 10 minutes of Monopoly, which is crazy to think about when you think about how Monopoly works. There's great voice samples. The visuals are very appealing. It's a game that really, really holds up today in a way I wasn't expecting, Matt. And I got to give a shout out to Monopoly on NES. So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could have given me a million guesses and never once would I have landed on Monopoly from way back when. Was there a particular anything, a trigger that brought you back to this game in this day and age at this time frame?
I was just playing a bunch of NES games and that just happened to be in the box of games that was right next to me. And I was like, oh yeah, Monopoly on NES. I'll play that again. And it was amazing. It was so good. Okay. But anyways, Matt, before we go to breaking news, we got a bit of a mail call. I actually just got this package like right before we started recording, like to the point where I literally opened it up. I looked what was inside and then I called Matt to start the call for the show. So I wanted to show it off here real quick because, there's a package from Xbox Canada. They sent me this because there's a little card that goes along with this. So Xbox Canada sent me this button right here. It says hit me, please. On that's in the lowercase there with a Canadian flag, and I'm gonna read the card here. It says, "Friendly Ragers, introducing the Canadian Rage button, a politer way to air out your gaming grievances. Every hit will reveal a friendlier and more Canadian way to express yourself in these momentary bouts of blind rage. So next time you're online and the unthinkable occurs, instead of letting your words fly in the proximity chat, just smash the rage button politely and let us do the talking for you." Now, I haven't actually pressed this button yet, Matt. I don't know what it actually says yet. I don't even know how loud this is going to be. So this is going to be a first, a carpool game.
We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
All right, ready for this? Matt, are you?
Yeah.
Brace yourself.
I'm ready.
Great play, bud.
Did you actually hear that?
Great play, bud.
Yeah.
Can we try something, Ryan? Ryan, can we try one more thing?
What?
I'm gonna poke. Can you press it as I poke so I feel like I also pressed it?
Sure. Go ahead, Matt.
This is on you for timing. I believe in you. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Can't win every time.
Can't win every time.
Yeah. Oh, Sean
That
says
is-
hold it closer to the mic. Okay.
Okay.
Great play, bud. Great play, bud.
There we go. So there we go. We got the Canadian rage button. Huge thank you to our friends at Xbox Canada for sending that my way. I don't know what happened there, but
I love how politely you press that, even though it's supposed to be a rage button.
look, I don't want to smash it into the microphone, Matt. Okay, there's only so much that I can do here. But anyways, Matt, let's land the brakes on this conversation. It is time for some breaking news. I hate that sign so much. So first off, I don't know if you knew this, Matt, but Sean and I have a rule on this show. The rule is we don't talk about the Activision Blizzard deal at all unless there's substantial news or if there's a specific reason for doing so. And today I woke up to something and I was like, we have to talk about this on the show, even if it's just for a teensy bit, because this is kind of like a big, what I would consider anyways, a big change in the case here. So the CMA has officially narrowed its concerns with the Activision Blizzard deal to how the deal affects cloud gaming. No longer are they concerned with the gaming supply chain as they were before. Martin Coleman, chair of the independent panel of experts that the CMA contracted to look into this, said, quote, having considered the additional evidence provided, we are now provisionally concluded that the merger will no longer result in a substantial lessening of competition in console gaming services because the cost to Microsoft of withholding Call of Duty from PlayStation would outweigh any gains taking some action. So yeah, this clearly indicates that, beyond some concerns that the CMA has about cloud gaming and how the deal is going to impact that, it sounds like they're good with this deal. And, the CMA were the very first people opposed to the Activision Blizzard merger. So now I feel like this is like the starting of the dominoes of this deal actually going through, where now that the European Union has said they're okay with some minor tweaks, and now that the CMA has basically said the same thing, I think it's only a matter of time before we hear the FTC basically saying the same thing. But what I see you nodding your head over there, Matt, so I want to ask you about this. What do you think this means for the deal? And do you think I'm off base saying that this is pretty much a sign that the deal is going to go through at this point?
I think you're spot on to this. I can't see why, because obviously the biggest talking point for anything over the last little while when it came to this deal was Call of Duty and the limitations that it would kind of come forward with exclusivity. I can't imagine that anything related to cloud gaming is going to be a substantial hurdle. I don't even think that anything within that wheelhouse, within the Bethesda wheelhouse, is substantially linked to cloud gaming anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, I think there's still concerns about Game Pass streaming and how much of a hold it has currently on the cloud gaming market worldwide. I think and adding a game like Call of Duty to that, I think tips those scales even more. I think that's what they're concerned about more than anything. Especially now that CD is not around, we really just have Luna and then a couple smaller services that we know about.
Which now makes sense, the stories that have been going around the last couple of weeks of them making deals with smaller streaming, agents to be able to keep Call of Duty on those platforms. Which, I mean, like, I'd be hard pressed to really believe that a lot of people are playing Call of Duty through cloud streaming anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, this for me is just the canary in the coal mine. I think this is really, like you mentioned, the first domino, and that June-July timeframe, which I think is what initially we were talking about a year ago already. Seems to be a pretty realistic time frame that in terms of when this deal will kind of get wrapped up. I'm not surprised, and I mean, it seems that Sony's every attempt that they've made to really slow this down or to stop it entirely, I think this is the end, and I'd be hard pressed to believe that they were going to do anything else after this. If the CMA is getting ready to kind of approve it with some cloud gaming discrepancies aside, if Call of Duty is no longer an issue for them, and I like that quote that basically said, Microsoft withholding Call of Duty from PlayStation would outweigh any gains from taking such action. Like, they've been very, very vocal in how much they're willing to play ball for at least the next decade. And that gives plenty of time for PlayStation to figure something else out if they make that decision 10 years from now. I think this is a lock. This is just a matter of time at this point. And I'm Ryan, I am very excited for this story to be over, regardless of the outcome like I'm glad that we're starting to see light at the end of the tunnel for the end of this this conversation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like that's one of the things I'm looking forward to most about this. Just the idea that we can finally just move on and talk about the games themselves rather than this deal going through. So I know, like the CMA's final decision has to come at the end of April, so we'll know the decision on that very quickly. Because then they have to basically draft up between now and then, a document with all the demands from Microsoft, and Microsoft has to accept it between now and then. And yeah, at this point, I think it's just, and barring the FTC doing something, I think, this summer we can finally put this story to bed and just get back to talking about games again, which will be around the time that Diablo 4 comes out. So it'll be perfect timing.
See, I'm just now waiting on the heel turn from Xbox after all this is done and being like, haha, joke's on you. Call of Duty is ours. PlayStation, suck it. You're never getting this stuff again. Yeah. And that means that we'll never stop talking about this deal even after it's over. But let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, next up, it's that time of the month, Matt, that we got our second Game Pass update. So the following games are coming to Xbox Game Pass. Pretty short list, actually, I will say, at this point in the month. We got Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom, the Prince's Edition. It's out today if you're on Game Pass. And then you've got MLB The Show 23 coming next week, March 28th. And then Infinite Guitars coming out day and date as well, March 30th, out next week as well. But the following games are leaving Game Pass, and there's a lot more games in this list, although there's not too many notable games here that we'll note. But all these games are leaving March 31st. We got a Memoir Blue, Chinatown Detective Agency, Cluster Truck, Double Dragon Neo, Kraken Academy, MLB The Show 22, and Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. I don't know what Court's going to do now, Matt, now that MLB The Show 22 is finally leaving Game Pass. He's finally has to leave that version of the game behind at this point.
Ryan, it's a fool's errand to believe that he doesn't already own it on every platform imaginable. So even though it's leaving Game Pass, that game is not leaving him, especially with 23 now hitting the services. I think the list of games coming, yeah, whatever. Like I never jumped into Ni no Kuni 2. Like I hit a difficulty wall in the first one that I really got annoyed with and just never went back. MLB The Show 23 is obviously exciting. I know a lot of people are very excited about that. Infinite Guitars, I have no idea what that is, but that feels like a Fate Zero reference that I'm missing.
If only, but it's the Unlimited Blade Works of rhythm games, Matt.
That's what I'm saying, right? It's just infinite guitars everywhere. In terms of the games leaving, I want to kind of highlight Kraken Academy, which is a really, really charming indie game that doesn't take that long to play through. I think you can get it done in like 10 to 12 hours. I'd recommend if anybody's looking for a really fun game that I really, really enjoyed when it came out last year. I'd encourage people to check that out before it leaves the service. The basic setup for it is you get to this like high school, this like demonic-esque high school, and there you meet a giant kraken that's signaling the end of the world that will come in the 3 days time. And you're basically up trying to figure out how to prevent the apocalypse. It's very, very tongue-in-cheek. It's very funny. It does not take itself seriously at all. And it is just a ton of fun. So if anybody is interested, I'd recommend checking that out before it leaves, because I think that game is one that was slept on, and it's just very charming and it's very fun. Go check out Kraken Academy before it's gone from Game Pass.
Nice. That's awesome. Again, that's one of the reasons why I always like to mention the games that are leaving is, sometimes we love to give games like that a shout out that, got missed and stuff like that. And that does come up every once in a while. The other one I want to give a shout out to as well is Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, which was a game that didn't review well when it came out because it had a lot of problems at launch, but it's a Power Rangers fighting game. And it's received a bunch of updates and new characters and stuff because it's actually a pretty popular game. And it's definitely a much better playing game now that it's received its updates. And I actually think that's a game as well that you shouldn't sleep on. You should at least probably consider checking out, especially if you like Power Rangers at all, or if you like fighting games. I actually think it's actually a pretty good choice as well. And Sean points out in the chat as well, I honestly wish the monthly drop of games had a bigger moment, is what Sean said. Yeah, between like Wulong Fallen Dynasty, if I can say the name correctly, was kind of the big drop at the beginning of the month. But beyond that, it just really feels like, this was kind of like a down month for Xbox, for Game Pass. Like we had some notable games come in, like MLB The Show or Ni no Kuni 2, but I definitely, when I look at what PlayStation Plus brought into the extra tier this month, and I compare that to what we've got here, I just really feel like it just wasn't enough this time around. Like, it was, I think we had 2 good day and date releases on Game Pass this month, but beyond that, I do think that it is, slimmer pickings, I think, this month, unfortunately. But yeah, and you can't win them all, Matt, at this point.
Exactly. Not every month is going to be a hit. So there are games here that people will hop in and check out, I'm sure. But also Power Rangers, a great time to check that out before we get that Netflix special next month where they bring back a bunch of the OG Rangers. Saw that trailer. I am hyped about it. So maybe I'll ride the hype train into checking out Battle for the Grid before that comes out next month, because I cannot wait, Ryan. I'm so excited for that. I don't know how, no idea if it's going to be good, but I'm still excited to check it out.
I mean, I'm sure it'll be good for Power Rangers fans, at least. I haven't seen Power Rangers anything in a very long time. So,
dude, me neither. This is like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers coming back and stuff. This is like OG. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait.
Oh, it's gonna be so weird. But
yeah.
Anyways, moving on. This is very much a Ryan Turford announcement, so I have to bring it up here. But Sonic Origins is getting an expansion called Sonic Origins Plus that will unlock Amy as a playable character for all of the games that were included in the original version, as well as 12 Game Gear Sonic games. We're getting Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic 2, Sonic Triple Trouble, Sonic Chaos, Sonic Spinball, Sonic Blast, Sonic Drift 1 and 2, Sonic Labyrinth, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Tails' Adventure, and Tails' Sky Patrol. Sonic Origins Plus will release on June 23rd, with existing owners being able to upgrade for $10 to get all these games. The game is also getting a physical release for the very first time as well. It comes with like an art book and stuff, which is pretty cool. As someone who reviewed Sonic Origins last year, I actually thought that this was a pretty good collection of the first 4 Sonic games, with some meaningful updates to them. As far as, they told us from the announcement, we're not getting any of those updates for the Game Gear games. They're basically just going to be playable in their original state, with the new achievements and things like that. But beyond that, they're pretty much going to be the games as is. But 12 games for $10 is actually a pretty good deal to me. Like, I'm actually, very, very excited for this, because I actually think the Sonic Game Gear games are pretty fun. In fact, most of the games in this list are actually not only were they fun back then, but I actually think a lot of them still hold up today and are still very playable and fun. The only downside, of course, is that I only wish that that Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 that were in here were the Master System versions instead of the Game Gear versions, because the Game Gear has like a smaller aspect ratio than the Master System. Like, they almost crop the picture out, so it's actually harder to play those games than the Master System originals. But other than that, I actually think this is a slam dunk for anyone who bought the game before, or if you haven't bought it already, like, this will be the perfect way to hop in, because you can buy it just all at one price. So, Matt, any interest at all? Do you care about Sonic? What do you think?
I do like Sonic. I think this is a pretty substantial upgrade. Like, usually we'll get these kind of like Game of the Year editions that don't really add too much outside of kind of, pulling the package together. For 12 bonus games, I think that's awesome. Adding Amy as a playable character is super cool. I have to ask, Ryan, because I've never played any of these. Is there one from this list that gets you more excited than the rest? Is there one that you're particularly looking forward to?
So there's a couple that I'm going to throw in here. Number one, Sonic Triple Trouble. I played that a ton on the Game Gear back in the day. It was basically an original Sonic game for the Game Gear that was very different from everything else that was out there, and I just had a ton of fun playing it. But also Tails' Adventure, because that game is very expensive on the Game Gear. Like, it's one of the Game Gear's most expensive games. I'm just really excited that it's going to be preserved in a meaningful way on current gen platforms, or for people to be able to play. Because a lot of these games, you could actually get through the 3DS eShop as 3DS virtual console games. But now the the 3DS virtual console or eShop is going away. I'm glad that now we're going to be able to get these in kind of a modern collection, I think. So yeah, I think the standout games would be Sonic Triple Trouble and Tails' Adventure, which Tails' Adventure is basically like an action RPG. It's not a normal Sonic game. Like, it's very different. Just like a lot of these games are very different from your normal thing. I mean, Sonic Drift 1 and 2, it's basically Mario Kart but with Sonic characters, or Sonic's Labyrinth, which is kind of like this puzzle game where you're going around these dungeon areas and solving puzzles and stuff. So I think there's a lot of like neat ideas that went into these Game Gear games, and they're not all just platformers. I like that there's some good variety here with these games. But,
nice.
Yeah. Sega, of course, went all out with Sonic on the Game Gear, because again, there's just so many more Sonic games on Game Gear than literally any platform in existence, which is funny to think about. But moving on to another game, speaking of racing games, Matt, I don't know if you saw this trailer. 2K have announced a new Lego racing game called Lego 2K Drive, where you can build your own racers and vehicles. It'll arrive on Xbox One and Series X and S on May 19th. This game looks awesome, Matt. It looks like it's apparently going to play like Burnout, where it's going to be like an open world Lego game where you build your racer and your car. But it's also going to be very arcadey, like Burnout. And of course, me being a Burnout stan, Matt, that's all they needed to tell me. Burnout mixed with Lego, like, I'm sold. This game looks awesome, and I can't wait to play it. But did you get a chance to check out this trailer at all?
Dude, after I saw we were going to be talking about this, I not only watched the trailer, I also watched IGN's preview. And this game looks a lot better than I think I gave it credit for when I heard about the initial announcement. The kind of fluidity and almost like the vehicle loadouts that you basically have as you kind of transition from, depending the type of like road that you're on, and how it morphs quickly and how you can even turn into a boat and all this stuff. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, similar Burnout stan here. So you tell me it's a game like Burnout, I'm much more inclined to check it out. I also big fan of the turnaround, from the announcement to this game coming out and basically less than 2 months after. Fantastic. I want more of this kind of stuff. I think my only worry about this game is that it is 2K obviously leading the way, and I'm a little bit worried that this is going to be microtransactions, there and back again. So I'm a little bit nervous that it's going to. I don't think I'm worried about it feeling pay to win, but there's probably going to be a ton of cosmetic stuff that they're probably going to lock, and I think even the pre-order, the way that the pre-orders are and the different editions that they have already starts to feel like that. Yeah. So I think that's my only kind of upfront worry, is just how much am I going to have to put into this game to kind of feel like I'm getting a full experience comparatively. But I think the game itself, in terms of like mechanics and the way that it looks like it's going to play, looks like it's going to be a ton of fun. I just hope they don't shoot themselves in the foot by making it too microtransaction heavy. Yeah,
because that is always the worry with a lot of, games of this type from 2K. I'm not as worried about it because I feel like there's going to be enough cosmetic stuff where you can probably build some pretty creative stuff even with what you just have in the base game. But we'll see. I think this is the type of thing too, where unfortunately the other issue with this announcement is because it's May 19th, Tears of the Kingdom comes out the week before, and then, 2 weeks later, we're in Final Fantasy 16 and Diablo 4 territory. Like, at that point, it is going to be a tough window for this game. But obviously, it appeals to, a different crowd than anything else here. Like, we don't have another racing game, really, that releases around this time. Like, the only one that I know of for this year, besides, the yearly F1 games, is Forza, coming out sometime this fall. Like, beyond that, we don't really have any other racing games. So definitely, if you're looking for a racing game to play, like a new one, like this might be your only option for a while. But I do think it might get lost a little bit in the shuffle, which is part of the reason why, like, I'm probably not going to pick, like, this is probably not a day one for me. This is like, especially knowing how 2K puts their games on sale, like, this is probably like a wait for sale kind of thing, as much as I am excited about this, because this game, especially because, like, again, I really like the Lego racing games back on N64 and whatnot. Like, I've always loved the idea of bringing Lego and racing together in meaningful ways. So I'm really excited by the concept, but it's just, it's tough timing for this game, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. This is easily like a wait for sale, or even like a wait for Game Pass or PlayStation Plus for me as well. Like, again, and that's no shade to the game itself. I think, like you mentioned, it's just hitting at a very, very packed window. And again, like, going into E3, going into Summer Game Fest, we're just going to get a deluge of announcements about what's coming in the back half of the year, which again will probably drain even more out of this game's hype kind of around that period. But let's see. Like, I hope it does well. I hope it plays fun, and I'm curious to check it out whenever the time comes.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm just hoping it's awesome because it looks great. It looks very promising so far. But Last but not least, and this one, I save for this one for last just because I don't think you and I have a ton to say about this one, but I want to at least acknowledge it here because otherwise, Andrew Simichek and Sean Capri would not, let me live this one down. Paramount Global Senior Vice President Doug Rosen revealed in an interview with Polygon that a God of War style game based off the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic The Last Ronin is currently in development. No developer or release date were named, though Rosen had indicate that it is still a few years away. So first off, brand new Turtles games coming based off The Last Ronin. Gonna be like God of War because for folks at home that don't know the synopsis of The Last Ronin, why you're only playing as one turtle, is because it's a story, like an alternate history story in the future where all the turtles have been killed except for one, who actually uses all the weapons of all the turtles, who's basically on a journey of vengeance to try and take down Shredder again to avenge his fellow turtles. And the thing is, you don't know which turtle it is who's using all the weapons. You just know it's one of the turtles. They have all the weapons and they're taking them down. The other three have been killed. So I think that's like a really interesting idea for a game. But Court, what do you think? Not Court. Why did I call you Court, Matt? Oh my God, what is wrong with
Just Court to shut up in the chat. That's why.
Okay. What's up, Matt? What's your question? Also, Sean Capri points out Shredder's not the villain. I do apologize for that.
It's his grandson. So actually, we had a question come up exactly like this on the PlayStation Drive just a few short weeks ago that Seth and I touched on, basically asking for exactly this, a Last Ronin game in the style of God of War, and we talked at length about that. So if you're curious about that, after that conversation, I actually went to the library and picked up The Last Ronin. I picked up like the collection and read through it. Really, really liked it. So a couple things. You do find out which turtle it is by the end of the first issue. But that is kind of left up to, mystery for the first little bit. And the main villain is Shredder's grandson, who has kind of assumed responsibility of the Foot Clan. I'm really, really excited about this. I think the idea for this is super, super cool. As I was reading it, I was kind of thinking, I was like, how would I make this into a video game? And there's some really cool stuff that they could do with it. There's some of the flashbacks occur in this almost like Kurosawa, very black and white style. So if they kind of flip between art styles and even like color schemes in between the flashbacks and kind of present day, I think that could be really, really cool. The story is dark. I really hope that they kind of keep that intact, just because I know I want this to be like M-rated. I don't want them to kind of soften the blow to try and make this a little bit more PG, given that it is the Turtles. I think that this has the potential to be really, really awesome. I think my biggest question, and obviously my biggest worry, is who's on this, right? Like we don't know the developer that's on this. They went on to say that like they feel like the developer is a good match for the kind of style of game. So I'm hoping that whoever's working on this, I hope they are as excited to kind of jump into this specific story because of how good it really truly is. And I hope, like, again, more questions arise, platforms, release window, everything else. But I just love that this is actually happening, because I think this could be really awesome. And I know a lot of people have been asking for like a big budget Turtles game. This may not be exactly what people have been hoping for, but I know there's a lot of people very, very excited about The Last Ronin, and that hype bled into me. I checked it out. Now I'm also on the hype train. I cannot wait for this. I think this is really, really cool.
Nice. Yeah. Whereas I just, again, don't really know anything about this, but I'm excited because it sounds like a really cool game where you have like a big budget Turtles game that plays like God of War with a bunch of different weapon types and stuff like that. Like, I think it's going to be really interesting, especially with what they do with the visual style. So I'm excited to learn more, but it sounds like we're not going to know anything about this for at least a while. Any predictions on the developer? My prediction, Matt, Team Ninja is developing this game. After Wolong Fallen Dynasty, after Neo and Neo 2, they're like, we need a developer that can do fast action games that are also mature. So we're gonna go with Team Ninja. But who do you think is developing this game, if you had to guess?
I think Team Ninja is a really great call. I wouldn't even be surprised to see if somebody like a Platinum would get a shot at it, because I think that could work really well as well. I think kind of my biggest question is, I don't know if this will end up getting caught up in the battle for exclusivity, because if that does end up being the case, there are a number of studios on both like the PlayStation and Xbox side that I think could be really great for it. Obviously, Sony Santa Monica, I don't think would ever be the actual choice, but how amazing would it be for them to have that kind of shake at it. But I also would be really, really curious to see, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it the Coalition that does Gears of War?
Yep.
I think if it is somebody like that as well, I think the Coalition could do something very, very cool with this. I know, given that they're, a shooter, they develop a lot of shooters, but I think in the right hands, I think this could be something that's very, very cool. So I'm kind of that mind of it as well. Is I really wonder, will this get caught up in exclusivity? And if so, I think Team Ninja is a pretty solid slam dunk as well.
Yeah. I mean, with Platinum, it makes sense when you think about that, but the only reason why I would say it probably won't be Platinum is because if you remember what happened with the last time Platinum developed a Turtles game, it did not go well, and it was a game that didn't sell well, and I just don't know if they want to go back to Platinum after what happened with the last, because they did Mutants in Manhattan, that one game that came out last console generation. It got like a 50 on Metacritic and didn't sell well. So
do you think we get FromSoft on this, Ryan?
No, because FromSoft is too busy doing some other thing. But the real question is, will it be Double Fine or Team Asobi then? Because you talked about, first party studios. I mean, clearly, those are the ones that make the most sense, actually.
Or do we get Bluepoint doing it?
Yeah, that's true.
There you go.
There's a bunch of great options out there.
Or no, Ryan, we missed the most obvious answer out of all of these. Blue Box Studios.
Yeah.
Going forward, I think Xbox, in response to the titular, absolutely substantial developing studio that is Blue Box, have actually probably in the works of starting their own studio called Green Box in response, and that's where this is. Watch. Clip it.
Yeah. It's over. You found a way to bring Blue Box back, Matt. Congratulations. Well, let's let some of our friends into the car with it. It is time for the carpool. We got one question this week coming from Darth Stradius, who asked the question, after the previews of Redfall, has it changed your excitement about it? What about it are you looking forward to? Now, here's the thing, Matt. I actually did not read the previews for Redfall at all, because I at this point, I've seen enough of the game where I'm just staying, like, I'm on media blackout at this point, where I don't want to learn too much more about the game at this point, where I'm like, you know what? I'm ready to just play this game now. I'm just ready for Redfall to come out. I'm ready to play for it on Game Pass. Kind of like what happened before Deathloop came out. Like, I'm in that same camp where I'm like, all right, I've seen enough of this game. I don't need to read anymore. So I personally did not read the previews for Redfall. I will say the chatter I've heard from the previews, and it sounding more like your traditional Arcane style game, but with vampires, actually has me more worried for the game that I probably won't enjoy it, because I don't really like the gameplay loop of traditional Arcane games at all. So I'm hoping that I'm really enjoying it, but the nice thing is it's on Game Pass, so I'm not gonna have to worry about buying it. I'm just gonna download it when it comes out and try it out, and if it's not for me, then I'm just gonna kind of put it down. But there isn't really anything that jumps out for me, but I'm gonna ask you anyways, Matt, did you have a chance to check out the preview coverage at all for Redfall?
So the only preview that I checked out was a friend of mine, Mr. Midas, over at Mr. Midas Games, who got to go hands-on with the game early. And his basic kind of like, quick summary without spoiling too much was that he wasn't overly impressed with it either, but he was talking about how he kind of saw the potential for it more as the multiplayer co-op kind of side of it. So I think similarly, like, I'm kind of on blackout for this. I'm excited about it. I'm ready for it when it comes out on Game Pass in May. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm excited to check it out there, because again, I will be downloading it. And like, for me, anything Arcane has been hit or miss. I really liked the original Dishonored, and I really liked Deathloop. Deathloop kind of caught me by surprise. So I am kind of going into this expecting a good game. Is this going to be game of the year? Is this going to be even an 8 out of 10? I'm kind of going in with the expectations that this will probably be a solid 7. And if it's anything more than that, I'm kind of, I'll be pleasantly surprised. I'm expecting to hop in, possibly play with some friends and check it out. But I think, I'm curious to get my hands on it. I don't think the previews are really going to sway me one way or the other. As you mentioned, it's on Game Pass. It's a fantastic way to hop in and check out if the game is right for you or not. So yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah, exactly. Like at this point, I'm like, yeah, I'm just ready for it to come out, especially because it was supposed to come out last year, as you know, got delayed a couple times. Like I'm just ready for Redfall to be out at this point and play it. So it just, you know, it just makes me sad that it comes out a week before Tears of the Kingdom, as well as a whole bunch of other games. So it's just, unfortunately, it's also kind of like what we talked about with Lego. It's kind of in a busy window. But anyways, I think that's going to do it for this week's show. Matt, again, huge thank you again for joining me this week. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me. Where can people find you on the internet, my friend?
Yeah, my dude. Always around to hop in and talk all things Xbox. I love this thing. As for me, you can find me over on Twitter at Matt_Silversoul, or you can find us each and every week on the PlayStation Drive, which will basically be the MLB Drive for the next little while as Court really sinks his teeth into it, and I approach that as a newcomer. Come hang out with us Mondays at 1 p.m. Eastern. What about you, Ryan?
Oh, well, thank you for throwing the question back at me. Well, you can load up your 3DS internet browser and go to the web address http://www.twitter.com/Ryan Turford. You can also find us on Twitter at Carpool Gaming, on YouTube at youtube.com/Carpool Gaming, on podcast services around the globe. So for Matt Sowinski, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been episode 283 of the Xbox Drive. Only 17 more episodes until episode 300. And we're out. Bow, 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 bow.
Peace.